Okay, Neil, we can see you coming down the ladder now. I'm at the foot of the ladder. The limb footbeds are only impressed in the surface about 1 or 2 inches. I'm going to step off the limb now. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
That was astronaut Neil Armstrong, who was on Apollo 11 on July 21st, 1969, as he spoke words that will live in human history. I watched, they repeated that over the weekend. Frankly, I'll be honest with you, I'm a sentimental guy. And I found myself choking up watching Neil Armstrong, looking at Houston, looking at the men in the Houston Space Center, looking at the intensity of the men in the human men inside the Space Center, listening to them, watching them, and realized that was the, I guess that was the height of America's prominence in the world. And look how far we've come, I thought last night, from Apollo 11 to Apocalypse Now under Barack Hussein Obama. I could not believe how far we have fallen from a nation that led the world in such travels to a nation that elected its first communist president who gutted NASA. Gutted NASA, killed the program that takes people to the moon. I don't know how many different ways I have to tell you what an unmitigated disaster Barack Obama has been for the United States in the 3.5 years of his phony reign. What is astonishing to me is what a bad job Mitt Romney is doing in articulating the danger this man has put us in. That's right. You heard me. Oh, I'm going to vote for Romney and Ryan because they're an alternative to the communist regime that we have in the White House. I use the words very carefully. You see, I'm an educated man. I'm a student of history. I've written many best-selling books, many of them you know. The fact of the matter is, I'm entitled to tell you what I think is going on. This is one of the greatest scams in the history of America itself. How a naked Marxist could be elected to the presidency, surrounded by some of the richest and most powerful people on earth, and get away with his socialist/communist policies without such notice is astounding to me. But we go back to Neil Armstrong landing on the moon. I watched it, and I didn't weep, but I was choking up. Actually, I just came back from my boat ride. I go out on Sunday, and I was lying on the sofa watching TV. I don't know what movie it was. It was a replay. This man was one of the greatest of Americans. Every American school student should be required to watch the footage of Neil Armstrong landing on the moon and the words he spoke, the words that Nixon spoke, and the pictures of the men inside the Houston Space Center who put him on the moon. All those incredible technological geniuses inside the Houston Space Center. And now compare it to the America of today. Compare it to what we have descended to. Let this be the perigee of America. When we finally throw the Chicago gang out of the White House come November, let every American know that we finally went to the perigee of our existence. Certainly not the apogee of our existence. It's the perigee of our existence. But that brings us to the Republican National Convention. I myself am not there. I wouldn't go there even if I had been invited, and I was invited to broadcast from my affiliate in Tampa. God bless him. But personally, I don't care about conventions. I've told you for weeks now, I have raged against these conventions. R&D. Hundreds of millions of dollars spent for a party for apparatchiks to throw balloons in the air and to use prostitutes on whatever. We don't have to spell it out. With the invention of the telephone, there was no longer a need for a convention. You see, political conventions were originally established so that the men who ran America could come in on a horse and throw their vote behind the candidate or nominate the candidate. In the invention of the telephone, there was no need for it. It's astounding to me how we just can't change. No, I wouldn't really want to be there. I myself would rather spend 2 weeks cruising Opaloka in a 78 sedan, dragging a tailpipe which is shooting sparks, listening to 8 tracks of Mantovani music, even swigging less oil from the bottle and sniffing furniture polish than spend a minute at any political convention. But then again, I'm not your normal talk show host. I'm just another American who's seen what's going on and is worried about what's going on. If you'd like to comment on any of these topics, the phone number is 1-800-449-8255. At the bottom of the hour, we have a guest who I'm very proud to have on. I have very few guests on the show because I don't think you tune in to hear my guests. You tune in to hear Michael Savage, the wit and wisdom of Michael Savage. We have the editorial page editor of the Washington Times, Brett M. Decker. He's got an amazing curriculum vitae, and you'll learn more about it later on. But he is going to tell us what needs to happen at the GOP convention in order to push Mitt over the top. Because if they keep up by pushing the wife and talking about cufflinks and laundry, they're finished. They're toast. Unless the people who voted for Obama, who are now pretending to work for Romney, are pushed out of the way, and unless Romney pushes forward some real ideas, frankly, I'm very pessimistic. Extremely pessimistic. This was the Republicans' election to lose, and lose they may because of the tepid nature of this campaign. You hear me? Did you hear what I just said? The tepid nature of the Republican campaign is just liable to see us with the second regime, the second term of this communist regime. It was the Republicans to lose, and lose it they may. This is the Savage Nation. If you care to join the conversation, the phone number is 1-800-449-8255. My website has all these stories in a way at michaelsavage.com. And as I say, no, I'm not at the convention. I'd rather spend 14 days cruising Opaloka in a 78 sedan, tailpipe dragging sparks, listening to 8 tracks of Mantovani, even swigging less oil from the bottle and sniffing furniture polish than listening to one more speech from one more politician. But then again, I'm not your ordinary Fox News broadcaster. I'm Michael Savage. What would you like to talk about? Huh? New York, WOR, Jeff, you lead the hour. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Dr. Savage, I'm glad that you opened by discussing Neil Armstrong. I'm calling you at 6:14 Eastern Time, and as far as I know, your president has not asked for the flags to be lowered in this country in Neil Armstrong's memory.
Well, he's the same president who threw out the bust of Winston Churchill. He, of course, is embarrassed by great men because he knows he can't keep up to their image. Why do you think that the man disrespected Winston Churchill and Neil Armstrong? It's because he knows he's a fraud compared to them.
Exactly. It's not surprising. It's disgusting that I have to sit here.
Well, you don't even have to say disgusting. He has very deep psychological problems. Obama is a narcissist because he's got a massive insecurity complex. He knows that he shouldn't even try to compete with Winston Churchill on the political sphere. And as a man goes, the bravery, the daring, the genius of Neil Armstrong, forget about it. The people are liable to say, wait a minute, who's Neil Armstrong? You mean we once dominated space? Well, why did Obama eliminate NASA's mission to the moon? They're liable to ask that question.
Well, Neil Armstrong asked that question last year before Congress, and my bet is because he spoke out against what Obama is doing, that's probably why the snub.
Well, that's right. When you're that narcissistic and you can't take any criticism, there's only one place for you, and that's either in Hollywood or in Washington. Yes, it's a great day to remember Neil Armstrong, and frankly, if I were the czar of education, I'd make certain that every American student watched the movie tape, the videotape, whatever they were using. There was no video then. I guess it was, it was video, of Neil Armstrong and his crew landing on the moon, and especially the words he spoke, which were amazing, and the faces of the men in Houston, in the Houston Space Center. That's worth watching to see the intensity of the men inside the Houston Space Center. And guess what? Shockingly, they were smoking cigarettes in a workplace. That's right. They were allowed to smoke cigarettes in a workplace while they were intensely landing astronauts on the moon. They didn't have to look over their shoulder at big sis, or little men. I'll be right back. This is the Savage Nation.
Savage.